This episode of the PC Perspective Podcast is brought to you by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com. And now Harry's is offering a free trial set. Just pay shipping by using code PCPER at checkout. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 422, being recorded on October 26, 2016. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malentano.
John, it just sounds like Josh's microphone was very crisp and clear today.
Yeah.
Josh, could you say something else for me again?
No.
Still very good. Still very impressive. Welcome to the show, everybody. So we do apologize for not having a podcast last week. Apparently, guys here were afraid of rain and lightning and storms and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so they decided they didn't want to come in.
It was pretty bad.
All I'm saying is no houses got blown away.
I put like every blanket in our house on top of our cars.
Or... don't you have like a 3-car garage?
It's full of crap right now. It's more like a 5-car garage, and it's all full.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's very sad. A quick checkup on the World Series. The Cubs are up 5-1 in the middle of the 7th here in Game 2.
And boy, am I glad I work with a lot of people out of Chicago.
That's probably...
They're very calm and controlled about this.
I probably just broke MLB rules, didn't I?
I don't think there's anal as football, because they need all the help they can get.
Nah, not in the World Series. That's like the only time anybody watches baseball, as far as I can tell.
No, whatever.
So I do apologize for not having one last week. I was out of town as well in Hong Kong, so things, whatever. We're here now. Everybody is here now. The group is all back together, and so we're going to talk about some stuff, some hardware and stuff like that. We do record the show on Wednesday nights, most Wednesday nights, at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, at pcper.com/live. You can go there and just hang out in the chat room and chat with us beforehand and afterwards and give us and make fun of us during the show and that type of stuff. It's always interesting. If you need a gentle reminder for that, you can subscribe to a mailing list, a notifications list, whatever you want to call it. It does use good old-fashioned email for this. But if you go to pcper.com/subscribe, you get this page here that asks for your name and your email address, and we'll give you, you'll get a friendly note from me or Ken or somebody about an hour and a half before, an hour before, 5 minutes before, somewhere in that range, that says, hey, we're going to do a live stream. Make sure you come out and hang out and join with us. So if you want to do that, that would be appreciated. Yeah, there's that. And then, of course, we have our Patreon campaign continuing to run, patreon.com/PCPer. This is your way to contribute to us if you think the content we create is interesting, if you think if you think it's not interesting and you want to give us an incentive to do more interesting stuff. I guess that's another way to look at this as well. But there's a story here about why we're doing this and what the benefits are, and there's a picture of Josh in a bathtub. And as always is the case, if you become a new contributor while watching the live stream and or increase your contribution while watching the live stream, I get to read off whatever name you have here, whatever name you put in, will be read out loud. So we've had some funny ones, we've had some disturbing ones, and I guess I expected no less or no better. Your system's still rebooting there? Your machine's still rebooting?
It's almost there.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy, you had a real quick reminder. This is the last one we'll have before the actual event. We have one of our world-famous virtual LAN parties this weekend, right?
It is. It's this Saturday. And there's last time I checked, there were 55 people signed up. So it's going to be a wee bit crazy. I'm already warming up my dead frog glass. I always do. And wishing that this damn thing would heal, because right now when I play a first-person shooter, the outside of my hand goes completely numb and I get even worse than normal. But we'll see. So you guys have shuffled together a couple of prizes, which are super secret and you won't find out unless you sign up and come and play. And AMD has also tossed in a few prizes. So we do know a couple of the giveaways that are going to happen, which adds even more fun to just an extremely long session of gaming on any of the games that you love to play that are multiplayer. The gang will pretty much have a couple of people that want to play with you, but you can bet Battlefield 1's going to be there, Battlefield 4, Rocket League. There will be a lot. So check it out. The link on the front page heads to the forums where you let Lenny know you're going to show up. Tells you a rough idea of what you should be looking for to prepare, like the TeamSpeak speaker, so you can be yelling and screaming at your fellow frogs as you're killing them. So come on, show up. 10 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning.
It's a lot of fun. It will go the entire day. So if you can't be there at 10 a.m., don't worry about that. If you've got things going in the morning or the afternoon, you can't get there till the night. There will be plenty of people still hanging out. So definitely worth going out there. And I say going out there, but it really is going into your home and getting on a computer, hence the term virtual LAN party. And like you said, 50-something people signed up so far. We got a decent amount of prizes that Lenny's in charge of giving out. So if you need another reason to come have some fun with all that gaming PC goodness that you've put together, there's one for you. All right, let's jump into our reviews for the week. We're going to start with Josh. Which is always the best thing you can do on one of these podcasts is really get Josh motivated.
Set the pace.
Yes, yeah. Set the tone, get the pace going. Josh is going to talk to us about the Fanatec ClubSport V2 ecosystem, which sounds fancy.
So, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we're going to treat it as such.
Did you say Dutch?
Such.
Double Dutch.
Anyway, no, I think it's actually pronounced Fanatic.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But they're German, so you don't know. It could be Fanatec.
I like Fanatec.
Yeah, it kind of sounds better, but
If only you could have asked.
I like Fana White better.
If they'd only had more umlauts, then
I will freely admit to falling into the same problem. Like a word that you've typed 1,000 times from one of these tech companies, and suddenly you're being asked about it, or you talk about it in an audio format, and you're like, I
had to email Arika.
I think it's Intel, or maybe Intel. You know,
it's Intel.
It's all where the emphasis is.
I emailed Arika, and they replied back to me with like the Wikipedia page pointing to the Eureka tree. They're just like,
okay,
it's based on that.
I mean,
it's the same name.
Otherwise, you could say like Erica.
Well,
you could.
Right?
It's pointing to the Eureka tree.
Eureka.
How do you pronounce that?
Well, because the pronunciation's in there in like the Wikipedia page. Yeah.
Asus, like Dr. Seuss.
They have a worse problem. But anyway, back to Fanatec.
Asses.
Fanatic. Anyway, this is a group that has a pretty good reputation because they make really high-end stuff. Now, this entire table is like $175.
What about
but the stuff on top of it is like $2,000.
All right.
And so you've got a lot of money just sitting there.
Yeah.
All of their stuff is metal. There's very little plastic on anything. Yeah, it's something like 8 Newton meters of force that the motor gives. It is a dual belt drive pulley system.
Dual belt drive?
Yeah, it's either single or dual belt.
There's 2 motors.
But yeah, it's one big motor.
The Fanatec is like just 2 motors in parallel, or 2 belts in parallel, like right next to each other. Sorry.
Yeah.
Logitech has 2 motors, and they do weird stuff.
Yes. Yeah, but the base itself is, I think, $1,200.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's a good chunk of change.
Yeah. All right.
The pedals are we can just go through some of these things. The mounting mechanism I found kind of interesting.
Okay.
You can scroll down on that. It's that weighs about 10 pounds just by itself.
Really?
They're solid,
Wow.
big screws and platforms. I didn't like the. You can kind of see that it's got a platform that you can unscrew that nut and adjust the angle of it.
Oh,
I had to take that
here?
out because it just even in violent maneuvers I could feel too much give. So I just had it flat on that. I was able to take that off. I was able to take the little cord. You see that dual cord thing off.
Yep.
That annoyed me. So you can really modularize this yourself. You can adjust and move things around, and you're not stuck in any one thing. The fit and finish of all this stuff is fantastic. The only problem that I've really had, there's a couple, but is a lot of people contacted me about these parts and said they're just all crap. They look nice, they cost a lot,
right?
But they're just all crap. And I've had this problem and this problem and this problem. And like 5 guys emailed me and and made comments, and so I kind of pulled a Josh in that I tried to keep this for absolutely as long as possible, and that's my excuse, to see if I could really hammer on it and if anything happened. And I had this for 3 months. I was supposed to have it for 1. Julian from Fanatec was fantastic to work with, and I use these on a daily basis, doing dirt dailies, the PC Perspective league play in Dirt Rally, and I never had a single problem. Everything worked fantastic. The wheel strength was amazing. When you hit a fence or a huge rut or something, you felt it. The wheel jerked out of your hand. Your entire desk just started, vibrating, and your monitors start shifting around. I mean, it's a significant amount of force that this wheel puts out, and it came with a leather wrap steering wheel that's had white stitching all around, said Forza Motorsport on the bottom, real leather, really solid, heavy. You could actually take this and put it in a car, a real car. I mean, you can't do that with the Thrustmaster Alcantara because It's got that plastic rim and it's kind of their version of Quick Connect. You couldn't do that. You could take this damn thing and put it in your regular car. I mean, if you've got the 6-bolt hole.
Allyn, do you have that?
I wouldn't doubt if Allyn has that.
No, I can get an adapter, but I don't have that.
Yeah, but you could put it in your car. You don't care. It came with the Xbox One Universal Hub, which attaches to the base, and the wheel then attaches to the hub. You get all the functionality of the buttons, all of that stuff, and you can see. I mean, this base is pretty big. And the only plastic part on it is the back, and there's a little plastic window on the top. Otherwise, it is all just machined aluminum. And, I mean, that thing weighs 20 pounds just by itself. I mean, it's significant. There's the hub. This has all your functionality of your buttons, your shifters. It's got the little LED on the top that tells you what gear you're in. Everything is super adjustable. So if you get different kind of wheels and you put on there, you could do aftermarket Momo wheels, whoever. They're going to fit that 6-screw pattern, and then you can adjust all of the button knobs for you can swing them out, you can swing them around. It doesn't matter. It's highly adjustable. The only issue I kind of had is that's kind of a heavy piece. And so when you combine this piece with the steering wheel, that is, again, a good chunk of mass that you've got to move around. And so I found that, and you can keep a look at that picture, Ken.
This one?
Because I'm going to go in something here in a second.
Okay.
But I found that the amount of weight and mass that the motor has to act against, I lost some of the finer details in certain races and certain feelings of, when tires start to slip or other, minor bumps and stuff like that, those get dampened just because you've got so much weight in the wheel and the hub. And it's really super solid, but at the same time, you've got to apply forces to all that mass to get it to move effectively. And so that's kind of a downer. They have other wheels that do not require this hub and that are significantly lighter. Now, the one thing you really notice here is that locking mechanism. That's essentially a quick release mechanism that you will find on race cars. I mean, it's all machined aluminum. It's got heavy duty springs. It's got, I think, 5 or 6 ball bearings in there that interface with the male portion of the socket. And I mean, once you get that thing snapped in, it doesn't move. Right. There's no slip, nothing. The Thrustmaster wheels, they have a locking ring that is made of plastic. You got to screw that on. It takes about 30 seconds. And then you got to tighten up a bolt and hope that over time that doesn't start slipping, or when it does, you have a really interesting experience on your hands. You're not going to have this problem at all with the Fanatec stuff. I mean, it's absolutely rock solid. Probably my favorite portion of this are the ClubSport wheels. That's a V3 version. Again, machined aluminum. It's super heavy. You put that on carpet, it doesn't move very much unless you really start hammering on the brake. Now, the brake itself it can handle something like 90 pounds of force. It's got a load cell in there that's rated for, I think, 90 pounds, 90 kilograms, one of those two. But it's a significant amount. And so when you jam on the brake, you can go into the control panel and see how much force is required to get to a certain percentage. And the human body can, I guess, get a better impression of how far to push something when you have force against it versus just position. So you've got an accelerator that has no pushback on it, but you got a brake that has an increasing amount of pushback when you're pressing, and you can better control braking and knowing where you're probably going to start locking up the brakes in certain scenarios than if you had a less, I guess, it's something that was more easy flowing, like, some of the lower end Thrustmaster pedals. I don't know how.
Yeah, regular ones just have a
Logitech
spring.
ones.
Like,
what's that?
Regular ones will just have a spring in the brake, but you want something that actually has like increasing back pressure, as if it was like
you were
a piston driving
a hydraulic piston.
Yeah,
exactly. And so you've got that. You can actually further adjust it to make it stronger or weaker. The clutch has a distinct brake point where you push it, and then it breaks past, and that's when you've engaged the clutch. These things are just fantastic. I mean, you set them on the floor, and they're just really solid. I put a couple of boards in between them and the wall. I mean, it just never moved. In the article, I linked to a video of a 24-hour Le Mans driver who's driving one of these, I think it was one of either the Mercedes-Benz or the Audi hybrid electric motor that, and petrol that were just, blowing the Ford GTs away in terms of speed, cornering, handling. And he brought out his Fanatec V3 pedals and did a A/B comparison with what he's actually driving in this race car and what he did with the Fanatec setup. And I mean, they're amazingly similar in terms of spacing, the forces required, all that stuff. It was really kind of interesting. If you're interested in all of this, I would watch that video. They also have a damper system that you can add to the accelerator and the brake to further increase the realism and adjust those to how you feel either your car or your weekend race car or whatever does. Yeah. And be able to have a consistent feel both in racing games and in real life. It came with a sequential shifter. There's also H-gate as well, and you could swap back and forth between them. The thing was, again, massive. It's all aluminum. It's all machined. It came with two different knobs on there, a sequential shifter and a regular H. You just hook that in, and everything just works. And I thought that was kind of fun. It's got a mounting system, much like the actual base itself. And so I've got that sitting on my desk, and I'm hammering it in sequential in some of these rallycross races. And I mean, it's just, my desk is going insane because it's just banging around in between force feedback and me hammering sequential shifts on pretty aggressive courses. And it's just a fun setup to have. And if I were to do this, I would probably get a dedicated racing seat and kind of a framework where you could mount everything more effectively and be able to adjust where everything is, because with that sequential shifter, I was like shifting up here because it's so damn high from my desk.
But it was like a Harley hybrid.
What?
It was a Harley hybrid with the ape hangers.
Yeah. But, if you actually do watch any rallycross, those guys actually do have the sequential shifters up high, and then right next to it, you've got your e-brake, but that's, neither here nor there. If you're doing H pattern it's going to be a pain in the butt to do that. I mean, you can do it easily with sequential, but H pattern is yeah. But even shifting an H, it was really smooth. You knew exactly what gear you were in because of when they have depress points, how it springs to center. So it's a 7 gear plus reverse H pattern. And again, it was really easy to get used to and really smooth. And so all these pieces came together to make a really fun, fantastic set of products that you really wish you could have and race with all the time.
Can show this picture. We hadn't seen this picture before. Sorry, Josh, where it shows like the combined installation of all these pieces, right? So you get a better idea of what he was referring to in like the 6-point attachment system and whatnot. Yeah.
And that little LED thing, you can pop it either up and down. And that I just had to do the what gear I was in, whatever. 2 annoyances. Yeah, and that's what it looks like with the F1 wheel attached. Right. And they have another attachment that you can put to the actual base itself in case you wanted static paddle shifters, because most paddle shifters are mounted on the wheel. So when you turn the wheel, the paddle shifters are moving with the wheel. But if you're doing hand over hand and you need to downshift, then you got to remember where in the hell on that wheel is the down, and you hit something you think it is because it's the heat of the moment. You really need to downshift and you actually hit upshift and your entire race is ruined. If you find you have that problem, you can do static paddles on there. So left side, right side is always going to be either up or down. The main issue that I had was when I first got it, I would start it up, and the fan was incredibly loud. I mean, it just spooled up 100% and stayed that way. And when you're racing, you didn't really notice it because you've got car sounds around you, and you've got the road and wind, and it didn't bother you. But once you were out of there, you noticed instantly that the fan noise was there. Well, apparently they had a batch of them go out with a firmware bug. I mean, this never happens to any hardware with fans. There's a firmware bug, and it put the fans to 100%. I contacted them. They sent me, and they pointed onto their forums the beta firmware to fix this. Once I put it on, the fan speed went down. I never really ever heard it again. The only other annoyance I had with it is when you turn it on, it automatically, no matter what, goes to Xbox mode. So you've got to press 2 buttons to turn it to PC mode, and then it finally starts to work with the PC. It's a minor thing. It would be nice if it could remember what kind of mode it left in, but I guess in terms of programming and firmware, that's just the way that they're targeting it. Don't buy this if you have a PS4. It's not going to work. I guess that they've got some interesting licensing issues with Sony going on right now. Some of their previous stuff may support PS3, PS4, but this particular combination does not. So it's a 900-degree rotation as compared to some of the other models that have 1080 degrees. So it's a little less than others, but I never found that to be a problem with the products that in the games that I was playing. Overall, I really can't say enough about this product. I mean, the fit and finish, the support that I got, the support on their website. I mean, if you buy products from them, they ask you quite strenuously to join up there and list your problems, anything. People get back to you fairly quickly. I imagine there are people in the world that have had bad experiences, but that's any piece of hardware. But in the time that I had with it, it just worked. Other than the fan issue, which got fixed, it was a flawless set of hardware. It was great stuff, but you're going to pay for it. That entire thing that I showed you with all the mounts, the sequential shifter, pedals, base, hub, wheel, $2,000.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
But could you mount it into a gutted out Scirocco?
You probably could.
I've bought Scirocco's for cheaper than
What if you cut the Scirocco
true.
in half? And really just use it as like a simulated cockpit.
Just the cockpit?
And just,
then that would be perfect.
You
and
put
my wife
LCD
would love me.
screens.
Funny you should say that.
In all the windows.
Somewhere I have a picture of a Scirocco that I'd first cut just behind the back of the front doors and made a trailer out of the back piece. And then I had to get rid of the front. And all I had was like a van, like a cargo van. So I sawzalled it down the center.
Should've
So I
kept it.
actually had a driver's side of a car just sitting there. Like he could have just mounted this stuff in there and like racing some away.
You
But
could have had your dedicated desk, Josh.
yeah,
So that's
right.
that's the Fanatec or Fanatec ClubSport V2 review. Check that out on the website. Let's get on to other stuff. Samsung 960 Pro 2 terabyte review. We've talked about this. We talked about this
really?
a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
I was in
When
Korea.
the news items were coming
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we actually have kind of a performance metric.
Yeah, now we actually tested it. So when it came out and they did the announcement in Korea, specs were very impressive, right? 3.5 gig per second reads,
Meh.
just over 2 gig per second writes.
Eh.
A new sandwich of a copper layer built into the label.
Right, we made fun of that for a little bit, right?
Yeah, to help spread heat.
Yeah.
That in combination with some firmware changes so that it doesn't back off as aggressively as it did when it does get like hot.
Thermally
Yeah.
limited.
Say again?
Thermally limited.
Yeah. And just all around impressive specs, like 440,000 random read IOPS, 360,000 random write IOPS. Just fast, right? It's a fast freaking drive. That was at least on paper, right? So then we got a sample in, and one thing before we get to the actual results, it's interesting to note that those sequentials, the 3.5 gig per second and the 2.1 gig per second reads and
Right.
writes, that rating is blanket across all capacities, all the way down to a half a terabyte. So 512 gig SSD, it's still going that fast, even though it has 1/4 the number of dies in it.
So what's
As-
limiting it, period? Like, why doesn't it go faster than that on the higher ones? Is it...
It's the controller.
Okay.
It's the controller, and in the case of the read speed, it's the bus.
And in our new testing suite, like, we actually show sequential throughput nearly 3.5 gigabytes per second.
Where are
Right.
you? Oh, you're on the,
on the-
focus on the drive.
I'm on the page where it's looking at those performance numbers. And almost 2 gigabytes per second on the writes, right? Like, that's... So
Yep.
it's not just... Like, it's actually hitting it. And again, we're only testing one capacity, the 2 terabyte. But we would assume, that they're not going to lie about that shit. and
it should be
their 512's
similar.
gonna hit there.
And then as far as the random performance, the place where you do get a drop off is when you get down to the half a terabyte model.
Yeah.
So the 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte models have the same specs, same max specs. But then you end up losing like 100,000 IOPS or something as a maximum on the out of 400,000 or something, crazy high IOPS. But
Tisk.
something that actually plays into our new testing rather well, if you go to the client QDepth weighted page.
Client QDepth weighted page. Yes.
So
Here I am.
what that testing there is,
This right here.
yes. So there's your sequential and your random. Specifically, the random is the more important thing for the specs that Samsung also kind of hammers on. They not many companies do this. They put a QDepth 1 performance on their specs as well.
Why is that important?
Because that's where people tend to run most of the
That's
time.
where the
when you're-
general consumer is at almost all of the time in
Yeah.
their workload.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so their rating is like 17,000. Now realize this drive is rated at like 440,000.
Right.
17,000 is not a large number compared to 440,000. But the thing
It's
is,
not. It's
that's
true.
where you're actually operating.
Most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're
Well-
stressing the drive type of thing.
Well, not only that, but like it's QDepth 128 is what the max figure is based on, and I don't know any computer that can easily get. I mean, even when I was working on our new test suite, we were running into problems trying to get the new test to run at QDepths that high on a drive that fast,
Okay.
because you just couldn't throw the IOs at the drive quickly enough to get to that much being in the queue.
Yeah.
It's just like, the thing's doing 500,000 IOPS almost, and you're trying to give it, 256 and 128 commands simultaneously while it's servicing them
Right.
extremely fast, right? Anyway, so long story short, there on the client QDepth weighted stuff is we ran a bunch of traces on actually doing stuff on computers, recorded traces,
Right.
analyzed them, figured out, okay, well, guess what? Most of the time, even if you run 20 apps in parallel, you barely break queued up 2. So we did this new weighting system where we take all the results for all of the various queued ups from the drives, and then we weigh them down to where you would typically be operating, and then come up with just a couple of numbers for a given SSD.
So the 960 Pro here we're rating it at 83, almost 84,000 IOPS right
Yep.
in a weighted thing. And what I want to point out here is like this is not going against any particular spec that Samsung puts on their device, right? Like they don't have an equivalent that we're trying to match.
No.
Necessarily. This is us saying typical user workflow, typical user workload, like.
Yep.
We want to compare the drives in that capacity.
Yeah. If you want to see compared to any particular spec that a company puts on their product, that's just the performance focus page, which I just give you all of the QDEP. So if they give you a rating for QDEP 2 or QDEP whatever, you can just find it on the plot, right? This one is, and granted, we only had the new test. I had to make tweaks to it, so we had to restart testing all drives for like the 4th time in a row. While I was developing this thing. So there's only 4 drives there, but the reason that the point of this is to eventually have just like dozens of drives on that chart and be able to just sort by, read throughput or something like that. So the goal there was to distill the results down to just the fewest numbers possible per drive. Something that's just you can just digest easily. Just give me a dang number.
That's what people have been asking for this type of stuff. Is right.
Yeah.
Give me a metric, and it's really hard to do. It's really hard to do.
It is
from a technical standpoint, and then even from just like a logical standpoint. How do you call all this data that you generate down into one number?
Yeah, and what I boiled it down to was, and why there's 2 charts here instead of just one, is I couldn't make it all the way down to just one chart. Is like you're copying a bunch of files to the thing that tends to be its own animal, compared to doing just about anything else on your system.
Right.
If you're doing stuff that's any kind of random access, that tends to be the 4K random thing, and it's Windows might do IOs that are larger than 4K, but they're not that much larger. The bulk of it tends to be 4K. Okay. So anyway, those charts will grow in future reviews, and there'll be much more results there. It is interesting to note how the writes are so much higher than the reads on that chart.
Yeah.
That's something people are not used to seeing.
I am not.
Because usually everybody sees maximum ratings. And the maximum ratings, when you go crazy high Q on a drive, you'll eventually hit maxes, which tend to be higher for reads than they are for writes.
Okay.
Because writes take longer, and if you're just overloading the drive with IOs, the writes take longer than the reads. It shows, right? You can only do so many per second, one versus the other. Right. However, when you're, first of all, at low Q depths, and second of all, writes, an SSD, when it's not doing a lot of stuff, like you're not really taxing it, it can answer a write request almost immediately. Because it gets the data, and it says, I got it, and then it figures out what to do with it.
So it doesn't wait to organize the data before sending the OK back to the OS.
Right. It just it gets the data, it's acknowledged it. That's the point where your application or Windows or whatever can go on its merry way and do some other stuff, right? That's all you really care about as far as performance goes, right? However, for a read, it has to go through all the steps. It has to look up where it actually is on the flash, address that flash chip. That chip has to, row, column. It does the same kind of like DRAM style kind of stuff, right? Data gets put on a bus, goes all the way back through the controller, and then goes back to the system. So the acknowledgement has to accompany the information that it just retrieved for you.
Right.
So it's forced to do much more work. That's why the numbers are lower.
Okay.
And it seems weird. I'm actually going to flip those out and flip those
the read write,
the reads and writes on the chart in future reviews.
Yeah.
Just to make it a little bit easier to comprehend.
So
we got some other tests. The mixed burst, which we introduced with the 950 or 850 Evo 2 or 4 terabyte.
Okay.
Like 2 or 3 reviews ago.
This is one where we're simulating downloading in the background while opening up applications.
Yep. And what is the impact on that opening of those applications with like a what we based it on was 300 megabit connection saturated with a BitTorrent download.
Yeah.
So 30 megabytes per second BitTorrent download.
Right.
And you're trying to do level loads in games or whatever. Like what
or
is
open up Photoshop, or you're doing a
with,
read of random data.
Reads of large files.
Yeah.
So a couple of charts. Again, we're trying to distill the results down to simple things, even though the test is very complicated. So we just put like one chart just has throughput comparisons. What was your write throughput? And this is not, we know that the write throughput on average was, what did I do? Oh yeah, it was actually 20 megabytes per second for this test.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 40 meg every 2 seconds, like a program emptying its buffer onto the drive, right? The write throughput is like the instantaneous speed. Okay? Latency percentile results allow us to reverse calculate, like, how fast was it going when it was doing something.
Okay.
And that's what those numbers are.
Sure.
And then the orange bars there are your, what was the instantaneous read speed while the reads were going on. Oh, Brian needs to restart his computer.
Let's reschedule that guy.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I literally just made this 3 a.m.
You did.
Literally.
Yeah, you just did that.
Just did this.
It doesn't care.
That time is in the
Windows 10.
past. What?
Oh, it's only
making
for
it today?
So just
Wow.
It will happen today.
Hurry up. We've got a podcast to do.
11:59, please.
So 11:59 p.m. it will be, I guess. Ass.
they really need to fix that.
Answer to the question I heard.
No.
And now Alexa's trying to talk to me too.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, continue on.
All right. So and then the next chart down is just like the total read service time for all of the read requests done during that test. So how long would it have taken you to read, in this case, 4 gigabytes worth of stuff?
Right.
So just scroll down a chart.
Oh, sorry.
And lower is better, obviously. And 950 Pro knocks almost a full second off of that compared to, or 960 Pro knocks a second off compared to the 950 Pro.
Gotcha.
You're kind of getting to diminishing returns when you start going like that much faster, right?
Yeah, like the difference between 5.5 and 4.6 seconds, are you going to feel that?
Yeah,
Especially because this is a compilation of many instances of this occurring.
right,
Yeah.
right. Next is a new test. Trim speed. Something I've been
Wait,
trying.
did you say nude test?
A
trim
new
speed?
test?
Nude test trim speed. Weren't we
New.
just talking about shaving?
New test.
Shaving.
that's
You're
coming
lucky I
up.
didn't go on about the balls and the male connector you were dealing with.
Yes.
All right.
So what's the idea here? You're trying to figure out how long it is taking to trim data in the background.
There were some SSDs where if you moved stuff off of it to another drive, the system would kind of stutter and hang, or at least the copy operation would,
Right.
or the move operation would. And turned out it was because like every time the next file gets moved, it actually does a delete of the old file. And then
Once it deletes it, it has to go through the trim process.
yeah, the SSD has to do something as a result of that trim command.
Sure.
And if you still have other stuff going on, in other words, the next file being moved,
Right.
it might slow things down, or other processes might slow down. So came up with a test that kind of lightly loads the drive while in the background deleting files of various sizes, and then do a bunch of math, and you end up coming up with, in the case you got the first chart up,
Yep.
file delete underload. So that is just telling you the amount of latency added per a gigabyte worth of data that you deleted. So it kind of runs this really light workload in the background, and then it does a baseline, deletes some files of various sizes, extra time gets added. Like it just takes the SSD longer to do the thing that you were doing before.
The thing you were asking it to do, not
Yeah.
the cleanup part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trim is generally like immediate. Like that just doesn't take time usually, right? So that's like underload, and it causes some kind of like delays there. The only thing we saw as there are other ones that cause these delays that I have data on now, just not published yet. But Intel 600p did not look that great.
Nope.
Added a half a second of latency per gigabyte data deleted.
Okay.
So if you deleted, like, you might be waiting a couple of seconds if you deleted like a DVD rip from your SSD.
That's noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one down is for full partition trim, and what this is trimming the entire span of the drive when it is full versus when it's empty. In other words, if it's already all been trimmed and the drive is like fresh out of the box, it'll take some short amount of time. Right? This is like you're trying to reinstall Windows on the system or whatever. Right? There are some SSDs where if they were previously full and you try to do that Windows reinstall, you'll be sitting at that screen for like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't know why, but it's because the drive's trying to like clean itself, basically, right?
Josh, that happens to Josh a lot.
It does.
Yeah. And
Once
again,
a week, whether I need it or not.
again, we have the Samsung drives did great here. Like they were literally couldn't measure any extra amount of time it took them to trim the whole drive, full versus empty, even the 2 terabyte version of it. And SSD 750 from Intel, also pretty good, but 600p, not so much. Again,
1/10 of a second per gig. So if you had a 500 gig drive, is that what?
it's a minute,
Right. Okay.
roughly.
Yep.
But that is the right calculation to be doing.
Yeah,
It's not
that's-
like
yeah.
how many files you had on there. It's how big the drive would
Right.
be.
And the reason I'm reworking that back towards gig is so that in the future we're going to have different drives at different capacities on that chart, and generally that time scales with capacity
Gotcha.
from pretty much all the drives that I've ran through it so far.
All right. So
Yeah.
Now
so
what?
drive
how
was
much does
good.
it cost? Is it free?
No, it's not free. It runs around 64 cents per gig.
By the way, this is what we're talking about again, guys. SSDs still.
Yeah, 960 Pro.
M.2 SSDs. So 64 cents a gig for 512 gig. Same for 1 terabyte.
It's all the way up to, and it's like, I
Is the
think
2 terabyte available already now too?
I'm not sure if it's. I know
Not
they
that I'm
had
going to spend $1,300 on an M.2 SSD, but
I know they had a
just
pre-order
especially.
going, but I don't think they ship for like
These
another week or
prices
two.
seem reasonable to us, I guess.
They're reasonable for the Pro because the Pro is like it's the premium model,
yeah,
right? It's and I mean it's the fastest
thing we've ever
NVMe
tested.
PCIe thing, which is funny since it's an M.2 form factor. It's not even like a full card,
Right.
right? That's really dang fast.
But we assume there's going to be like an Evo.
There is going to be a 960 Evo coming,
Okay.
and the pricing on that is supposed to be like SATA levels, like you're talking like around 30 cents
Right.
a gig.
And there will be performance hits in some areas, I assume.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
In a similar vein to what we've seen on the 800s.
Yes.
past.
But interesting note about our new testing is that there's stuff that we haven't published on yet, like a cache test. I can actually measure how much cache there appears to be, SLC
Right.
cache versus TLC, right? So that information will be there when it comes time for us to test 960 Evo. And also all of our workloads, all of that data that you get, as far as like QDepth weighted and all that other stuff, the workloads are applied in a way where if you're testing with a SSD that has caching, everything is a cache hit,
Right.
right? The way the test works is it's always hitting cache. It's paced in such a way that that's what's supposed to happen, right? Which is, again, you're sitting there using your computer. Chances are it's not sitting there with, in the case of what's going to be the 960 Evo, which has like 40 gig or something worth of SLC cache on it or some insane high numbers, right? You're never going to be writing direct to TLC.
Right.
It's just never going to happen.
Well, we'll talk about those when we get to those drives.
Yeah,
when those
but
drives are actually released.
all this new testing stuff, once we get to those, it'll be cool because we'll have like actual like how fast does it go for you numbers as opposed to, hey, I ran this some random off the shelf benchmark thing and it just tried to,
ASSSD.
yeah. The
Atto.
what?
No, I'm just naming off benchmarks.
Like Atto, ASSSD, those simple benchmarks, which people tend to run on like empty SSDs, like you just format the SSD and you just run the benchmark on it. What we learned from all this new testing is that when the SSD is empty or has like a gig on it or something like that,
Yeah.
the performance tends to be an awful lot higher than it actually is when you put stuff on it.
Even like if it's 50% full.
50% full and 100% full are usually very close to each other.
Okay.
But like 10 or 20% full, no. It's like not really representative of how it's going to behave
Yeah.
in reality. So that's kind of a downside of those simpler kind of tests like that. And then there's other tests out there that like hit the whole drive with 4K random, and that's totally the wrong end. Like that's the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
So like that's the goal of the new testing was try to be like, what is realistic? As realistic as possible.
We need to do a better job. We'll explain this out better. If you guys are interested in that, and I think you should be, you should check out the full review for that. And he's got a whole page dedicated discussing how that build out works and how that the testing suite works. But in the interest of time, unless you have anything else,
No, I'm good.
960
I was
Pro.
going to say, how exciting is this? We talk about a wheel setup and SSD for an hour.
Only 45 minutes.
You two people
right.
don't stop.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're going to
okay.
get more expensive now.
Yeah, how about we talk about a $5,000 projector?
God, what is up with you bougie people? I leave and you just...
What's up with
You know,
this
the
money?
elites are taking over this country.
You leave Hillary Clinton out of this. So the Acer Predator Z850 ultra-wide, 24:9.
That's a weird aspect ratio.
That's 24:9 projector. So
Well,
Sebastian,
that's the way your average wall is built, right?
Isn't that cinema? Isn't cinema 24:9?
I thought
I
it was,
think so, yeah.
oh, it's not. I thought it was 21:9.
It's not 21 by 9.
I thought it was 21 by 10 when you went to cinema.
Don't
Look, guys,
think
math
it's
is,
24
math
by 9.
is hard. So this is the Acer Predator Z850. It's got the Predator name, so it's supposed to be like a gaming-centric based device. It's got some interesting and unique things. One, it is able to project up to 120 inches from less than 2 feet from the wall. So it's a short throw. Ultra-wide 24:9 aspect ratio that is 1920 by 720. 1920 by 720. And a very high 300 lumen brightness for gaming in ambient light, apparently. It's big, it's red, and you better believe it's expensive, as Sebastian notes here in the top of his review. So it is expensive. It's $5,000. And I think in terms of consumer projectors, that's got to be on the high end, right? Now,
Oh, yeah.
he does mention some other ones that are, ultra short throw, ranging from the mainstream LG PF1000U to the $50,000 4K Sony LSPX W1S, right? But I'm imagining those
This is a bargain.
but that's 4K and this is 720p.
Yeah.
And it's a different, the 4K one is 16:9, this one is 24:9. So it's a very different type of thing. So again, this is probably not something we're going to recommend for almost any reader, viewer, listener, whatever, because of the price.
Is the 24:9 the end result aspect ratio? Like
No.
Or does it end up being 21:9? Like, is the resolution is 24:9?
I don't know the answer to that.
But since this, you know what I mean? Like,
It says
you
the
get
resolution is 1920 by 1080 max,
right?
or 1920 by 720 in 24:9 mode.
Okay.
So you can still do it.
Because he
1080p.
bucketed around
Yeah,
with it and
it'll
could
just
get it
crop the
to-
middle.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like it'll just block
Yeah.
off the sides,
Yeah.
essentially, I think.
F2.4 minimum lens app, laser diode lamp, normal lamp mode life 20,000 hours. If you have it in economy mode, 30,000 hours. It's got speakers. And I was like looking at projector inputs. As somebody had to do a presentation this week, I got to use a VGA input. This one has HDMI, USB. What does it got? VGA in, yes. Audio line in, yes. And then composite in.
Two HDMIs.
Two HDMIs? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta let
And
that
called
dongle
it
life.
just in case.
I will say this was in our office for a little while before Sebastian stole it from us. It's a good looking device.
Yeah.
It's neat,
But when do you look at your
but
projector?
it's not really
You
important.
do when it's a short throw.
Yeah.
I guess
in
it is.
your
It's
living
kind
room.
of sitting there on like what he showed, right?
Yeah.
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 So you can see the.
Did
the
someone
display
send
put
him a
there.
wheel to do racing games with this?
No, that would have been a good idea.
And an
On an
NVMe
N60
drive
Pro.
to put it on.
Yeah.
It does have fans, cooling fans, exhaust fans, a lot of hot air through projectors, as you're used to seeing. Remote. It does come with a VGA cable, so that's nice.
Yeah.
No HDMI cable.
Suppliers seem to have a lot of them lying around for some reason.
Why are they all blue?
Because
VGA.
Yeah,
I think they kind of just standardized on
I
that
guess because I still have some of those, and every one I have is blue.
Yeah.
Blue.
But this is an impressive shot. This is inside Sebastian's house. You can see the
That is
wall.
super
you can
close
see
to
the
the
throw,
wall.
and there it is in a 24:9 aspect. It's really cool
Yeah.
to see it, and him and his wife were messing around with it. And it was funny. He kept telling us all the time in our chat, like, Corinne, his wife, had never been interested in like big screen TVs or projectors or anything like that. Like she didn't care about the size of the screen, but as soon as she saw like 100-inch TV, she's like, "Well, do we get to keep?"
Next thing you know, he's shopping for screens.
Yeah.
That's true. He was.
You know, we're gonna get one of these. Like, how's this gonna work out for us? And like, look for a racing game.
Yeah.
I wonder how resolution support is for 1920 by 720, but I mean,
racing games are usually pretty adaptive.
Racing games, sure, but for other
resolutions.
games, I was just curious because again, this is kind of rated as a gaming centric thing. And what's the refresh rate of this?
Isn't it 100?
Somebody remind me. I think this is 100 hertz
At
1920 by 720.
60.
I just don't understand why they're going for that wide of an aspect. You know what I mean?
21 by 9 monitors are hot, man.
21 by 9, yeah.
It's probably how the math worked out.
I guess.
CinemaScope is 21.15 to 9. Just letting you know.
Sure. Just to mess with you.
21 by 9.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure. Let me. Where's Sebastian? Why is he not answering my question?
It's in the chat.
Because he's too busy in chat.
Yeah.
Sebastian, it is. You need to tell me what the refresh rate of this thing is. It does have a crappy looking remote, so there's that.
Whoever uses the thing that came with the
Well,
The remote that comes with the display that you use for your TV, I think a lot of people use that, Alan.
I mean, it is essentially your TV at that point.
if you're spending $5,000 on your projector, you have something else.
So it can project
other than the
120 inch 1920 by 720 image just 18.5 inches away from a wall.
That's pretty crazy.
That's pretty awesome. Laser diode illumination up to 33,000 lumens. Almost said 30,000.
so
lumens.
that picture you have up is with a screen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see the border. Oops, you can see the
Yeah.
border of it on the.
It has
Wow.
60 hertz.
So much wasted screen.
Is that all?
DLP.
No,
That's
pretty
it.
Really?
Oh, is it only 60?
They only
I
have
thought
60
But it's
Sure.
DLP, which makes it kind of weirder than just a straight out 60 hertz.
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh,
it's
does
a
it?
spinny thing.
Color wheels.
Yeah.
Oh well, when I search for Z850, we're the first thing that comes up. So.
Can't trust that site.
I have nothing else to reference now. We are the only reference. So, all right. Sebastian does note that the colors were not accurate out of the box. The fans are loud. It's more expensive than some other good options. There's a ViewSonic laser projector that's $3,500, and Acer has the Z650 short throw, which is about $1,500. It is not a laser. I assume it's just a traditional
Yeah.
lamp design. So here is playing The Witcher 3 on it. Like, I bet that's you can't get a sense for the size in one of these pictures,
Yeah.
right? If you've never been at a 100-inch screen before, it's I understand his wife's like sudden dramatic change of heart, right? It is a kind of a life-changing experience when you see a 100-inch screen that is
Especially
good
if you've
quality.
got it on a nice screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which he definitely did. I think he went through 3 or 4 of them,
Yeah.
he said, trying to find one to really best demo
And
it
you
all.
pretty much need one of those screens that's like pre-tensioned. Like,
Yes.
it's actually tensioned side to side.
Right.
That's what he ended up with.
Yeah. Because especially
Yeah, the
with
one
the
he
short
found was
throw,
pretty good.
right? Because short throws, you're on such a sharp angle to the screen that it's going to be so sensitive to any
Yeah, any
you
kind
know,
of ripples in there is gonna.
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
one last thing.
yeah.
If you're still playing PC per Bingo, one of our commenters said that's perfect for Lawrence of Arabia viewings.
Within arm's reach.
Perfect.
Great.
Are you getting ready for Battlefield
Great.
1, are you?
The Battlefield 1.
We'll have to find that bingo thing that Scott made up.
It's post on the site. I mean,
I'm
Yeah,
sure it's
it's on
somewhere.
there somewhere.
yeah, it's a news post.
Yeah. You know, interestingly, I finished that 26 hours of World War I history podcast, and Lawrence of Arabia was in there for about 12 seconds.
Yeah.
And he apologized for it profusely. He's like, I really can't make this show any longer. I'm sorry. This is what we have to do. Anyway, that's the Acer Predator Z850 ultra-wide projector. Very impressive. I wish we'd had it here, but I probably wouldn't pay for it.
You didn't have a wall to put it
I'm on the last episode of that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So our last review, I'm just going to mention it, and we're going to move on. This is the EVGA SuperNOVA 750-watt G2L power supply. It's a power supply with lights on the back.
What?
Boom.
Oh, and clear plastic
Yep.
connectors
It
as well.
glows.
So you can plug it in.
I'm surprised they didn't go with clear plastic on like the cabling and stuff to get totally like.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't make it very
Just use
far.
fiber
I
optic
know.
cable.
Yeah.
I think you can transmit electricity over that. Right?
Really, really high power light.
So, a good review on this, a good device. We've been talking for too long on stuff, so I apologize to Lee and EVGA, but that's a SuperNOVA 750 watt power supply. All right, we need to get to our advertiser for today. We have a new sponsor on the show, everybody. Harry's, Harrys, in case you decide to spell it Harries for some reason. Harry's sells razors. Here, open that up and show them what we got here.
All right.
So,
Would this be nice for my head?
head, face.
And shoulders, knees, and toes.
Back.
So we all shave. Most
there's a
of us
bag.
shave.
Everything you need for a smooth shave.
Yeah, there you go. We all shave.
I don't know. Does Ken shave yet?
Like once a year.
There you go.
So
I have 2 cats and I spread cream on my face.
Just his nether regions.
Harry's is the idea is simple here, guys. Like razors you buy at convenience stores, at the grocery store, at the drugstore are super expensive and unnecessarily so. So this is actually the most disappointing part of this ad for me is that we learned that Harry's was started by 2 guys, neither of which was named Harry.
What were they?
Jeff and Andy, who were fed up of paying high prices for razors, so they decided to start their own razor brand. They actually bought a factory. They didn't just like lease out or rent out or.
Contract.
There you go. Thank you.
This right here. This right here is awesome.
Yeah, they give you a little travel case
Because
for
I
it.
put my razor in my like shower bag thing
Yep.
when I travel.
You reach in and cut your hand?
No, I don't reach it, but it has like sliced open other stuff that was in my shower
Yeah.
bag.
The nice thing about those cases is they have a drain.
Yeah, so if you put it in there when it's wet, it still
Yeah.
can dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big head.
Harry's bought a factory with 100 years of blade making experience. So they make their own razors, sell them online, ship them. They don't have to deal with any of the other hassles. They can sell them at half the price of the leading brand. Let's see, everything you need for a close,
They don't
comfortable
have
shave.
to buy naming rights to a stadium in New England.
As apparently they don't. So
No.
you don't have to pay for that
Yet.
crap. Right? And so you get razors really cheap. You get 5 German engineered blades, a lubricating strip, a flex hinge for comfortable glide.
You know what that means.
Trimmer blade for hard to reach places, and a weighted ergonomic handle. Did we take the handle out? Did we show them? The ones that they sent us to try out. Nice and orange.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a set to send to all you guys too. They sent me a bunch of them for you guys to
Sweet.
try out.
I'll use it.
Oh, good.
So you can let us know what your experiences are as we go.
And those blades are
So
supposed to
next
last like
podcast, you're going to see me with
Synchronized
all
shaving.
this white tissue
Ooh,
all over my face
nice.
and head.
those
Well,
blades are
then you
supposed
did
to
it
Like a
right.
mummy.
Those blades are supposed to like last a really long time, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's $2 a blade as well. So when you do have to replace it,
No, that's
Just
true.
ditch it. Get a new one.
yeah. It's $16 you save every time you buy an 8-pack of blades compared to the leading brand, and that's plus you can get more savings if you subscribe to the Shave Plan, which is where they kind of auto renew you and send you these new blades. Which honestly, for me, would be beneficial because I tend to go too long with a blade until it starts to like
Not work.
really well. It still starts to like really
rub.
agitate your skin, right? And then it's like, oh, maybe that's your last one, and you got to wait a couple more days for more to come in. So the Shave Plan is a good idea. It just kind of keeps things coming. They're so confident in the quality of their blades, they'll send you their popular free trial set, which comes with a razor, a 5-blade cartridge, and shaving gel free. When you sign up for a Shave Plan, all you have to do is pay for shipping. Plus, there's a special offer for fans of this show. If you enter the code PCPER at checkout, you get a post-shave balm added to your order for free. So you can rub it on your face or your head or your face.
Please tell me that's spelled BALM.
BALM.
Okay, good.
BALM. So you go to harrys.com right now, HARRYS.com right now. Enter code PCPER at checkout. Claim your free trial set and post-shave balm. And we want to thank Harry's for their support of PC Perspective.
So, Ryan, have you ever tried, and this is a serious question, are you ready?
No.
Okay, I've heard that when your razor gets dull, get like denim and
Yeah.
rub it away from the grain, and it realigns a lot of those.
Sorry, you mean strop
Yeah.
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
You literally stropping it.
Never heard that.
that works.
Yeah,
it ruin the jeans?
use a fabric like
Yeah,
denim.
use
So if you
old
get
or
jeans
leather.
on, and your razor's a little, just do about 10 or 20 strips the opposite direction, and it realigns the edges.
Might not be able to do that with this because the blades are kind of inset into the frame.
Okay, well, I don't know, but it would be interesting to try.
Ming and
You thought I was going to go
seam
somewhere
on your
really
jeans.
terrible with that, didn't you?
We did.
Yeah, and I think justifiably so.
Nothing like the gleam of decommissioned submarine titanium.
Heck yeah.
That's generally what.
It's got
We
the
wouldn't
straight
let
edge
the
side of the
Germans
thing.
have
No,
that.
it's not. That's like FY100 plus steel. So shut it,
What?
Alan.
You don't think there's?
You don't think this is an alloy?
I just
Not
don't think we let
titanium.
the
They're not
German
gonna
have
do
decommissioned
titanium razor
titanium.
blades.
Yeah. Well, they don't.
It just says German engineered blades. I do not know the metal.
U-boat.
content.
Oh, so they won't pass the emissions test then.
Yeah.
They'll fake their way through it. So thanks to Harry's for their support of PC Perspective. Let's get on to some news items here. We're going to run through quickly, guys. GTX 1050. Jeremy, tell me about this. I don't have a review of this yet because I was traveling last week and the first part of this week, but it's on my agenda for the rest of my time here this week. The GTX 1050 and the GTX 1050 Ti. What are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at Pascal for under $150. So for a lot of people, that's actually pretty exciting. It's relatively inexpensive. It's a brand new architecture, still off of the GP 107. I think it's -A1 officially. But apart from that, the clocks, as you'd expect, fall below the 1060. The 1050 is clocked a little bit higher, 1354 on the core with a boost of 1455. But it only has 2 gigs of RAM.
Okay.
The 1050 Ti, the clocks are, and it's also got the least number of texture units that we've ever seen at 40. So the 1050 Ti matches the 950 with 48 TMUs. The clocks are a bit slower, just under 1300 megahertz and just under 1400 for the boost. Your memory speed remains the same at 1752, but you've got the full 4 gigabytes.
You've got it. You can do this.
Yes, I can do this. And both
your
are sitting
mouth.
at the 128-bit memory bus speed. The reviews that I've seen, long story short, the 1050 Ti is the way to go. There's a tiny bit of price difference, but
what is
you
it?
double the RAM.
Is it 119 versus or 109 versus 139?
Yeah. So the $30 for the extra 2 gigs of RAM seems to work out in benchmarks, in playing games. You pretty much don't want to buy a video card with less than 4 gigs of RAM right at this moment.
Yeah, that's fair advice.
Performance-wise, for DX12 that I saw, it's sort of they bracketed the RX 460. So the Ti was a little bit faster most of the time. The non-Ti a little bit slower most of the time, not by a huge margin, but it gives you a rough idea of how it compares to a card you're probably familiar with at this point.
Gotcha.
The DX11 performance, on the other hand, bounced all over the place, most of the time favoring the NVIDIA low-cost offerings, but not necessarily all of the time. This is also because a lot of those games have been out so long that they're about as optimized as they can be for the architectures they're running on. The DX12 performance will be interesting because it does seem solid, and AMD is, slowly but surely creeping up on the performance. I don't think it's going to make a VR rig. Sorry, guys. But apart from that, if you're just doing 1080p gaming on a single monitor, you don't have a lot of money to spend, these are worth looking at.
Josh, Biohazard's saying in the chat that these are built by Samsung instead of TSMC. I hadn't heard that. Did you hear that?
I don't know. I know that
It's news to me.
they were talking about utilizing them for a future architecture, but I hadn't actually heard if the 1050s are Samsung.
I hadn't plugged the cards in yet, so I hadn't gone down the process of starting to look at any of this type of stuff. So, all right.
Well, you'll be able to tell very quickly Korea versus Taiwan.
Oh, true. Well, thanks for the heads up on that, guys. It's
Just trying to see
interesting,
if Guru 3D pulled it off in a way that you can actually see what the memory is, and it doesn't look like it.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, this is the continued progression of the Pascal architecture into different price segments. So, I will say that it looks like the 1050 Ti versus the 950, they have the same number of CUDA cores, texture units, ROPs,
Yep.
The clock speed's about 20% higher, and it has twice the memory, and the memory's running about 100 megahertz higher. So, and
So, in theory, a 1050 Ti would work for Oculus with the async space warp stuff because they lowered the spec to...
No, they
that's
lowered to a
960,
GTX
wasn't it?
1060.
Yeah.
No,
Well, no, it's
no, you're
1060
right.
is always the
960.
choice.
They said 960.
Okay, so probably not
Yeah,
then.
so 1050 Ti would probably be still under that requirement.
If you've got a really steady stomach, you might be able to do it.
All right, yeah. So Bio's saying that Samsung is speculation, but the Anantech story says it is 14 nanometer. So that would, it's that or Global Foundries, right?
That would be funny.
Those are the two options at this point for 16 or for 14, if that's what it is. So
Yeah.
Oh well. All right, so that's the 1050 Ti. We'll have more about that next week when we have our review up. Alan, tell me about Intel CrossPoint product leak that came out a little over a week ago. What is this? This is the 8000P series of stuff.
It is.
The
That was
hell?
interesting.
Did yours go off too?
Yeah.
Mine went off as well. Both.
Do you have a weather
Is it
warning?
time to reboot?
No, it was Siri. It was
Yeah.
Siri being a jackass.
Who knows what
Anyway,
happened.
continue.
Anyway, from the specs, all we got in the leak was just this
This
chart
table.
of specs, this table of specs, right? However, just based on previous leaks that we published on before, it looks to be that system accelerator thing, which is actually at the bottom of their roadmap. If you scroll down a little bit on that picture right there, there's a system accelerator
Yes.
deal there.
At the bottom, below mainstream.
Yes, below mainstream.
Yep.
And the idea is it's just a very small amount of CrossPoint just to act as a cache. I would imagine that Intel would probably kind of integrate that with their, with just their driver to act as an accelerator for a SATA SSD or just some
A system level cache,
yeah,
kind of essentially.
yeah. But remember there was Intel Smart Response Technology
Right.
caching
Where you were
thing.
using an SSD
Yeah.
as a cache.
Yeah,
right?
and then
Yeah.
they sold a 20 gig SLC SSD at the time.
Didn't no one do that?
Pretty much nobody
Pretty
did
much
that, right?
Yeah.
The idea with
This
this
is true.
though is, see, the other one, you had to do it, right? You had to set it up.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was on the user. This is the kind of thing I believe would just be you'd buy a laptop, it would just have the thing.
No,
in it.
laptops could have done that as well.
Some
and I think some
laptops
of them
did do that.
Yeah,
Some laptops
but-
did do that, yeah, but it really
It's interesting to
kinda
note,
didn't
if you look at
catch
this
on.
table, this leak is two capacities, 16 gigs and 32 gigs. So it's clear that this is only for that, right? It's only for the accelerator side of things.
Yeah.
You're not putting an OS.
Yeah, you're not going
going
to try to install Windows onto that.
You were
I'll
mentioned
try.
before how impressive it was to reach those IOPS levels on probably what is one die.
Yeah, 16 gig is one die of
Right.
CrossPoint.
Yeah.
That's its capacity. So you got 4K random reads, 285,000 IOPS, one die.
Right. And if
pretty
you
dang fast.
extrapolate that out and think, okay, when they do eventually release larger capacity items that are not just simply meant for accelerators, you're basically multiplying that potential if the controller is up to it, which we assume it would have to be.
Yeah, and that whole thing we were talking about where, now granted, we don't know what the Q depth was
Sure.
in these
It
tests.
says up to.
Right? Yeah, it said up to, and there was a little note, a number 2 that was supposed to be superscripted but wasn't in their little leaked picture or whatever,
Right.
which probably at the bottom of that chart said, it was probably Q depth 32 or Q depth whatever, right? But I'm pretty sure that even super low Q depth performance is going to be through the roof for this stuff. Because, it should literally be almost zero turnaround time. It's almost like reading from RAM.
Right.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. Why in the hell
Yeah.
do we need an accelerator? We literally just talked about the 960 Pro
Uh-huh.
and how fast it was.
Uh-huh.
What would adding a 32 gig cache to it, or really, would you?
Increasing the cache on a lot of SSDs.
You want to know what? You want to know why?
Yeah.
Pure TLC SSDs. Or QLC.
I mean,
Here's the thing.
I guess, but
But if I'm buying a QLC SSD, I'm not going to buy this accelerator. I already don't care.
You would have a choice because both would come in the system. Yeah. It would just be the thing. Right? I think, this is just me hypothesizing, but I
Right.
think where they would want to go is think of the 600p right now. It has trouble doing sequential writes sustained because it's trying to flip modes of, it's trying to flip pages and and blocks worth of flash between TLC and SLC mode and vice versa, is trying to do all that and juggle stuff around. Screw all that. Just make it a pure TLC thing, but then you need some kind of a cache. Oh, look, we have this CrossPoint stuff, right? So where I think it's all going is for all this to just be in one SSD.
Right.
Right? You'd have an SSD. The controller would just have some extra PCI lanes that go off to this CrossPoint to talk to it. Right? Or in the case of second-gen CrossPoint, which is supposed to act more like direct RAM, that you can just be addressable as if it was DRAM, basically. But that's not going to be for like another year or two, right? But you could just take that, plunk it down on the SSD, and now you have a 16 gig or a 32 gig, way better than SLC buffer. It's basically a RAM buffer that is persistent for if you lose power. So now you also have power loss protection. So this would be the place where you would keep that table that gets updated every time you do writes, and the table you have to do your lookups to every time you do reads.
If it's integrated onto an SSD.
Yeah.
If it's two separate items that are managed in software, you can't do that.
No, but it is a stopgap.
Yeah, I think as a stopgap, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what SSDs? Like, if you were talking about like when people are still installing hard drives in their laptops,
Yeah.
and not SSDs, then this makes a lot more
difference.
sense.
The difference in performance was much greater between those two.
Yeah. So I don't know. Interesting to see.
And
we will definitely see laptops with this stuff in it next year. I have no doubt.
probably.
We
I mean,
will.
if you
I
already
know
have
we will.
you already have spec sheets out, so
We will.
yeah.
All right, Microsoft had a event today. They did not announce a Surface Pro.
No.
They did not announce a new Surface Pro, which I was very surprised by. But did announce two things. This one is the Surface Studio, the Microsoft Surface Studio,
Studio.
which is an all-in-one desktop PC. It is a gorgeous design.
Yeah.
The video, which we don't have embedded in here, but you should go
Which
check
is
out.
also the best thing I've ever seen come out of Microsoft
It's a
for
nice
an announcement.
video.
It's an amazing video.
No, we don't have that embedded.
Outdoes Apple, I think, for like an introductory video.
Finally,
type thing.
somebody did it.
Yeah. And so what you're looking at here is a $299.99. No, that's too much. $29. It's a $3,000 machine.
So it's $999 more than the Fanatec setup.
Right.
What are you going to get more use out of, huh? What
Yeah,
will ya?
exactly.
But it's a little bit cheaper than the projector. So
That's true. I think you can get it as expensive as the projector if you spec it up.
True.
Maybe. But so this is, the basis of it is this screen. It's a 4.5K screen. What is it? 4,500 by 3,000 is the resolution.
3x2, baby.
it's
thought it was 4x3.
4.5K.
It's
No,
3x2.
it's not 4x3. It's 3x2. It's the same
It's 3 by
aspect
2.
as the Surface.
Right.
I can't do math in
it's
my
hard.
head.
It's hard.
But it's a 4.5K.
Yes. It is a 28-inch display, 192 PPI, 3x2 aspect ratio. It is 10-bit. They're using 10-bit panels.
That video was amazing.
Yeah, the video is great, and the music they use is awesome. It's a like hard rock version of Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka. They do a really, really good job. You guys should check out the video. It's all touchscreen, 1024 pressure level. It has the Surface Pen that you've seen before. It has this weird puck thing. What do they call that, Jeremy?
Oh, disc? No, dial. It's a Surface dial.
So it actually it can sit on your desk. It can be on the screen. If you watch the video, they show a woman who has it on the screen and they're using it. It's a studio device, so it's meant for artistic people who are doing drawings or professional stuff. In the interactions they have with the dial and the pen at the same time and the touchscreen are really, really cool.
It turns.
I would have no capability to do any of this.
It turns into like an easel slash.
You can change color with it. They're rotating objects with it.
And there's no buttons on it. It's all contextual.
Yeah, and it's got like
So once you
haptic
put it
feedback
on-
inside of it. When you turn it, it kind of gives you like little knocks when you've ratcheted through things.
And one thing they didn't actually push very well on the video is apparently it will be compatible with any existing Surface product.
Somewhat.
What do you mean?
Oh, you mean you
Somewhat.
can
It's not going to be as spiffy as this one, but
What do you
you
mean, like
will
the-
actually know it.
What do you mean? Yeah. Oh, they're talking about
puck?
the puck.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the puck.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to work, but
Dial.
like it doesn't do the same where if you place it on the screen, it draws a contextual menu around it, sort of thing. I think you can still use it as an input device.
And like you could use it on your desk type
Yeah.
of thing.
is this Is this IPS? What is the screen? NVA?
It
must be IPS.
Well, it could be
What did I
NVA.
say? It's DCI-P3.
Yeah, it's doing P3,
Yeah.
which
I'd be impressed if it was anything other.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting aspects of this, though, from a hardware perspective. One, it's using Skylake-based processors,
Yep.
not Kaby Lake-based processors, which kind of makes sense, I guess, because you're getting more desktop performance out of it. Kaby Lake currently is only announced as a dual-core hyper-threaded processor. This is going to be a quad-core, i5 or i7, maybe quad-core with
did they
hyper-threading
say
option.
quad core?
I don't think they said, but it says Core i5 or i7.
Because I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if this didn't have the 15-watt parts in it.
It would shock the hell out of me if
I'd
it
be
didn't
really
have
shocked
a
as well.
quad-core processor in there. Maybe. You never know.
Especially when you're dumping the GPU in there.
Right.
Right, you get a 980M paired with a 15-watt processor.
I mean, that's a gaming watt. Well, no.
That's what's odd. So the GPUs they offer is if you get the bottom two SKUs, you get a GTX 965M with 2 gigs of memory. And on the top end SKU, 32 gigs of memory, 32 gigs of RAM, rather, you get a GTX 980M with 4 gigs of memory. And it's an odd...
Oh, the system is in the base.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. The system's in the base. The screen is I think they called it the thinnest LCD that's ever been produced or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but back to the GPU side of it. I don't get it.
I am kind of worried that screen's going to be a little kind of bouncy and flimsy
What?
with the mechanism that they're.
But no, it's in 0G.
Yeah, it says it right
I
there.
don't think it will be.
Zero
I
gravity
think
hinge.
it will be perfectly stiff, and
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the hinge will be great.
Yeah. I mean, based on how they've done the Surface Pro 4
Yeah.
and the Surface Book, both
Yeah.
of those were very, very well designed hinges, and that's obviously this is a much bigger thing and heavier thing.
That's my
but
concern.
It's got 2 pretty big arms on the side of it.
Yeah.
To move around with. But yeah, I don't know why they would use a 965 and a 980M. The only thing I could think of is it can't be cost. This is an expensive computer. If it were $100 more for Microsoft to get the Pascal-based parts for NVIDIA, I think they would have done it. This has to just be a timing thing.
Probably.
A
They probably
GTX
developed it.
980M has the same thermal envelope as a GTX 1070.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Right.
just realize if everything's crammed in the base like that, it's custom PCB design. It's
Maybe it's just
You know,
been
it
in
kinda
development
sounds-
a little longer than they wanted
yeah,
it to be.
yeah, it's
I was
not-
gonna say maybe the software development platform took a lot longer than
Right.
hey, let's spec out the hardware. So we've got all this. These are the things we need to implement, and they're trying to bust their ass trying to get all this stuff to work
Yeah.
as smoothly as it looks in this video. And so they locked down the product, and software had a lot of catching up to do.
The other
Maybe
weird,
there's a warehouse full of 980Ms that got to be along.
they got a $5.50.
6 of one, half and a dozen of the other.
The only other really annoying hardware thing is they're saying they have rapid hybrid drive options, 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte, and they didn't go into any more detail than that.
1 terabyte or 2 terabyte hybrid
In
drive.
fact,
Rapid hybrid is what they call it, and they don't give a brand or anything, right?
yeah, I think Sebastian might have actually added the hybrid because I think they were just calling them rapid hard drives.
I think they said hybrid during the presentation.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah.
So now you got to wonder, okay, how hybridy is it?
Well,
Right.
it's probably the Seagate
Like
SSD.
SSHD.
But is it just an SSHD?
God, I
Because
hope
that
not.
seems like a horrible thing to put into a
Yeah.
$3,000 to $5,000
I bet
computer.
you that's what it is.
Yeah, I really hope it's not that.
As
'Cause that's not-
as the major downside to most of the Surface line, it's very overpriced.
It is.
I don't
high-priced.
get why it's a spinning anything for that price.
Well, agreed. I don't disagree. with you. I
seriously.
could see why you would
Because
maybe
markup
put
on
a 500 gig
SSDs
SSD
in the
and a
retail
2 terabyte
market
hard
is
drive.
insane.
Yeah.
Like utterly insane.
The display is probably an incredibly expensive component.
Probably.
They're the only. Have you seen another monitor of this resolution, aspect ratio, size,
Yeah,
thinness?
I know.
They're probably the
It's-
only person buying this panel from whoever's making it,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
That's got
there's
to be
a 27-inch 5K panel.
Yeah,
Yeah, but with that aspect, though.
Yeah.
right. And super high color saturation on it. I don't know.
The Surface devices are usually priced outside of where they're affecting the sales of the other OEMs. We've seen
Yeah,
with the
they don't
Surface
wanna
Pro, we've seen with
compete.
the Surface Book.
Yeah.
They make the best device and then try not to kill their partners. But
$299 up to $41.99 depending on your config. I think it looks awesome. I would love to see one. I didn't go to the event, obviously. I'd love to see one of these in person. Hopefully, they'll have these at the Microsoft Store. Do we know when they're going to be when they're going to start shipping?
2017, I thought they said.
Oh, really? Not till next year.
Frame by framing their video looking for an SSD.
Like, I thought it was July. No, sorry, December 15th.
December 15th?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just after my birthday.
Barely in
Microsoft.
time for
Or
Christmas.
not July, I meant January anyways.
Just after my just after my birthday, Microsoft. So that's the Surface Studio, and
Look at
then
that. That's all the hinge for the screen.
what else? They announced a new Surface Book, but there were no dramatic changes to that other than
They said twice the GPU performance. No one will know what that means until
they have
actually...
I think that has a 965M in it as well.
Oh, did they actually put a spec on it for
yeah,
once?
on their
they-
website they have a 965M, and the other one used a what did it use?
It wasn't really modeled.
Was it like a? But it was like then we put it as like under a 960 or something like that.
I
or
honestly
950.
don't remember.
It was low. I remember because I remember questioning like why have a discrete at all at that performance level. So, but I don't think they changed anything else in the Surface Book, did they?
They
Design-wise?
changed. They changed.
The hinge is supposed to be a little bit better.
I think there will be some additional stuff because like the physical design of the dock has changed a little bit, so
Oh, really?
there might be some more differences there that people.
Let's just hope that they figure out all the sleep wake cycle stuff before they
Yeah.
ship this time.
My girlfriend has a Surface Book, and it's
Does it still have problems? Mm-hmm. No.
Oh,
You still
come
have
on.
a
Have you not been
girlfriend?
following the NFL lately?
touche, Josh, touche. It like sleeping. Well, she shuts down because of sleeping wake problems.
I bet she shuts it down.
She does, huh?
I didn't
Every
find
day.
that one to be particularly
Every night.
ironic, actually, I don't.
Anyway,
Yeah, we lost
never
Josh.
Posted the
mind.
bingo up a little while ago. There's another tick mark for you.
Oh, dear Lord.
Wow.
I just got a notification. No, never mind. We'll talk about that afterwards. So there was that, and then they also announced Windows 10 Creators Update, which is
New MS Paint.
sweet.
Someone's going to create a thing that lets you stop the automatic reboot?
So what was previously
No.
codenamed Redstone 2 is now called the Windows 10 Creators Update. Is this something that everybody will get, or is this you have to pay extra
Yes.
for it? Oh no. Okay. So what is it?
It's a new MS Paint.
Oh.
There's
Well,
more than that, right?
okay.
No, it's a new MS Paint, but it's Paint 3D. So
Wait, what?
it allows the very creative minds of the internet to, say, snap a picture of something. And with the new Paint VR, just remove all of the entire background and then dump it into wherever you'd like it to be.
Oh no,
Like,
what did
say
I do?
this-
That is not the right button.
Hang
I'm
on.
sorry, or would you like to update Chrome now? Oh, you've got a pending
I hit
update
Function F2
from Windows. So.
instead of whatever. Anyway.
So it gives them a chance to do that, and it will sort of turn it into 3D, so you can rotate it and look at it, and theoretically dump it into games and such. It should be interesting.
And this adds some of the like they just showed some of
Now,
the
this is the other
HoloLens
thing.
stuff, right?
Because you can take that picture in 3D, you can then ship it off to be 3D printed.
I don't,
So
what?
This is the part that makes me give a headache because of my day job. People are
Yeah.
going to export these files and want to print them, and they're probably not going to be great because they're coming from Paint.
But it's MS Paint too.
everything from MS Paint is perfect, right?
That'll be.
Are
a
they trying to
nightmare.
make this so that if you had a 3D printer connected
Yeah.
to your system, that you could
Yes,
just like hit print?
absolutely.
So Microsoft has a 3D builder application.
Yeah.
Yep.
that
And they got a 3D camera.
And so like they have a 3D printing software that works with a couple of 3D printers.
Oh, okay.
So they like have an ecosystem built around it. So
Yeah.
in theory, it could all work.
Okay.
And it Remix 3D, I believe, is the name of the service. So you send it off to Microsoft, and this service will 3D print whatever it is that you've sent to them, or an approximation.
In the
of
chat,
said
they're also pointing out that they did announce $299 VR headsets, which I know nothing about.
thing. Oh, HoloLens?
No, these are they're not
Can't be
HoloLens.
HoloLens at that price.
They're like HoloLens Lite HMDs for $299. I saw a picture of them on Twitter, but I don't know anything about like what they actually integrate. Actually, let me go back to my.
Isn't it like a 6-degree motion sensor that you don't have to have room scale stuff?
So they're supposed to work with the
it-
Windows holographic features.
Okay.
right? So
Yeah,
that
'cause
was basically your desktop
Satcha's-
environment in VR.
Well, Windows Holographic is the HoloLens API.
right.
So
But
Well,
these
it's
aren't,
gonna
these
be
aren't
more than that,
AR
though.
glasses.
Is the-
These are just VR glasses.
Hopefully the resolution's higher.
My guess
but
is
it's
that they're
gonna be-
not if they're $299. But
Satya admitted, this whole mobile phone thing didn't work out so well.
nice.
And he's suggested we're going to try and build a VR ecosystem. So this is sort of part of the introduction of trying to make Windows the de facto for playing with AR and VR.
Right.
That's where they're going to focus. So
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me. I didn't
No,
actually
that
get a
makes
chance
sense.
to watch this presentation, so it's just more what I've been reading. So we'll see.
Yep. So that was Microsoft's deal. At the 4G summit that I was at in 4G 5G summit I was at in Hong Kong, one of the interesting things Qualcomm showed was they demoed their X50 5G modem. No, I take that back. They didn't demo it. They announced it. This is where they're starting to get into. So the whole 5G stuff, we'll have a different discussion about this another day. But look at the size of that logo. Holy moly. Millimeter wave technology.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? Over 30 gigahertz, I think, is what
When
that's
you get
considered.
down into millimeters, yeah.
Yeah. So announcing support for that. This is still something that is not until early 2018 is when you'll start to see integration of these devices. They've tested it up to 5 gigabit throughput. This is the 28 gigahertz band, by the way, for this, and massive MIMO type stuff, 5 gigabits per second. And this will be used in a what's interesting about this is that when 5G first comes out, you're going to have multiple modems in your device, but they're going to be designed to work together. Like as when it happened before, you had to kind of switch back and forth. Like when you switch from your 3G network, if you've ever watched your phone, it switches over to 4G. If you
like
start
it
to lose it,
disconnects
it
and
goes back.
reconnects,
Yeah. With this, it would be connected to both at the same time. Probably what would be realistic is you'll be on 4G the whole time, and whenever it happens to find 5G, you will be.
Sounds
You'll be
great
able to
for
burst.
battery life.
Well, and that's part of the stuff of the development side of it, right? With when you're getting up to 28 gigahertz and above, some of the stuff I saw over there was like, yeah, we're going to get up to the 100 gigahertz bands. It's like line of sight is not just kind of important; it's kind of like really crucial. Alan and I were talking today about like moisture in the air will affect wavelengths once you get above 50 gigahertz.
Yeah,
or so.
I mean, Y-Gig stuff, which is 60 gigahertz, is about to start shipping beginning of next year at
But
CES.
that's meant for single
room.
spaces,
Yeah.
right? Whereas what they're trying to do,
It doesn't
this is
even
with
make
the
it out of
cell
that
network.
room. It's like whatever.
Yeah,
else.
so
They will get 5G down to the lower bands, larger distances.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Be able to come inside your house as opposed to being kept outside of your house, things like that. They also showed, I don't know if we had it on here, I don't think we did, but they demoed gigabit 4G LTE gigabit working, like 973 megabits.
Holy crap.
There's a
So I'll get about 20 on Verizon.
Yeah, more or less.
Telstra, which is an Australian provider, is working with Netgear, who's built the modem. So it's basically like for your whole home network, you just have an 4G LTE modem that's a router as well. It's got gigabit Ethernet ports on it, and that's your internet service for the thing. Now, we asked them a lot of questions about, like, technology is awesome. 4G LTE, it's fantastic. What about data caps? Like, what use is a gigabit connection if I have a 20 gigabyte limit on my Verizon service? And they, nobody really wants to talk about it yet.
It's like a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, if the carriers were nice, good one. They would, if you're using that femtocell in your house, they wouldn't count it against your data limit because it's using your hardline internet connection.
Yeah, but the idea is you don't have any hardline internet connection anymore.
Oh, other way around.
Yeah,
Got it.
this wireless is now your internet.
That's
Can that
never
even
gonna
handle
happen.
that much of a widespread? That's a lot. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? You mean on their network
Like
itself?
imagine everybody's house, everybody using their cell phone at the same time.
Yeah, but they're not
Right.
all doing a gigabit of transfer.
Sure.
Right.
I'm with you.
I mean,
but,
it's a similar idea as like, could the cable network handle it when everybody was getting 50 megabit internet connections for the first time? You got to build up the infrastructure in a particular way. But Qualcomm, who is the maker of the technology and not necessarily the maker of the policy on how it gets implemented, right?
Yeah.
When they're getting grilled on this stuff, they mentioned another potential benefit to gigabit LTE is that people get on and off the network quicker, right? If you're downloading files, you can get, you're downloading them super fast.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
because
it-
you're probably not streaming 4K video with Dolby Atmos for 2 hours straight.
any if you are, that's 30 megabits, right?
Yeah.
50 megabits, 100 megabits at the most type of thing. But, he said
You must
by,
have more responsible users
by-
than you, Josh. Because
by getting by getting the data to like spike out and in, right?
Yeah.
You effectively increase the carrying capacity of the whole network automatically. Because people are on the network less.
It's one big time
do it.
slice problem.
Yeah.
and there is only so many megahertz to go around.
I mean, and I saw today,
There's a limited
was it
amount.
today? Google kind of announced that they're not doing Google Fiber anymore.
Yeah,
They're not going to
it's
expand
on hold.
anymore. Yeah, they're just like, we're probably
It
good.
turns out this doesn't make much sense as a business.
And that sucks, right? But if you're one of the lucky,
Especially the workers that got dropped like a bad packet.
Oh,
yeah. But if you're one of the lucky consumers that got it,
Scott Wasson.
or you got AT&T Uverse that offered it because Google Fiber existed, or you got your Time Warner upgraded because of it, or Cincinnati Bell offered it because of that, right?
Yeah.
You owe that to Google, and it sucks that there's not going to be a player in that market now to push people forward. That's what Google was there for, in my opinion, and what I thought they were
On them
doing
failing is
back then.
horrible because now it proves, nobody wants
Yeah,
that. Nobody needs it. That business doesn't
Yeah.
work.
I mean, you look at how pitiful the Verizon Fios rollout was, like what they claimed it was going to be when they got all the government money, and then what it turned out to be. When I was reading the Google stuff, they were interlinking to other stories, and I saw a map of what the Verizon Fios rollout is nationwide, and it's like,
I mean, they stopped,
barely colored on
They
the
stopped
map.
rolling out Fios like 4 or 5 years ago,
yeah,
Yeah.
which is insane.
yeah. So the idea may be that wireless replaces that. We just need to get the wireless companies to, I don't know, stop buying each other and merging into things that are
Stop
uncontrollable.
redefining
AT&T Time Warner.
unlimited to mean something
AT&T
exactly the
DirecTV
opposite of
Rise
unlimited.
again.
What's that, Josh?
Ma Bell will rise again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this time as your TV provider.
With their rotary dial phones.
Let's see.
only.
A couple more.
Bakelite.
One more item here. Nintendo Switch was announced. The Nintendo Switch, no longer the Nintendo NX.
So your parent spanks you with it?
Yes.
See, that's what you went to first. Like, that's weird. You need to see a psychiatrist about this. You got some underlying issues. I was thinking like a light switch.
Oh. Okay.
Can turn it off and on.
So it's this new gaming
So you don't have
system.
a dominatrix.
It is essentially
leather.
Oh, it switches.
a
Ha, ha, ha.
continuation of the idea of what the Shield devices were supposed to be.
What? No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't.
It's a Shield
How
tablet.
could it be Shield?
It's a Shield tablet with a dock
Oh.
NVIDIA.
and then a controller.
Yeah, but someone might buy this.
But wait, is the game streaming or is it just playing
No,
on
it's
that?
real games. They have cartridges / memory cards. Whatever. So
Okay.
this is a Nintendo system. It is powered by an NVIDIA Tegra processor. They didn't say which one. It's a custom SoC. They didn't say like what architecture it was based on, how many cores it had, or anything like that. We'll probably learn more as it
It's
goes.
like a Wii U someone would actually buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. So, I mean, you can see in this picture what the idea is you have this dock at home that you connect and it hooks up to your TV, and then you have this controller that is odd looking, to say the least. But then when you want to take it on the road, you literally undock it, and the game is identical. Like, you don't...
Dismantle the controller and slide it onto either side.
Yeah,
of the
you
screen.
unslide those off and attach to the side of the device, and you can take it with you.
Is the video embedded?
Yes.
Because the video is actually a pretty good demonstration of
Yeah, it gives you some, like, the use cases of
has
it.
some really stupid use cases.
Yeah, it does that too. So this is an interesting thing for NVIDIA because we all kind of assumed that the Tegra line was dead, but then they got two cool announcements in the same week that they're in the autonomous Tesla
The
sensor
Autopilot
set.
2.0 hardware.
Autopilot 2.0 hardware that started shipping last week, and on the Nintendo Switch that is would be what, March of this year,
March.
right? So here's this guy.
Are they going to be compatible so you can drive your Tesla with this
So like
Switch?
the game's playing still. It's
Game's
on the,
playing.
They're making a very good point to show it was on the television.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you disconnect it and go, and now he can pretend to like his dog enough to take it outside, but really he just wants to play some
He's not
Zelda.
paying any
again.
attention to his dog.
Yeah,
He's
dogs
just-
don't matter.
The dog is already
Zelda.
drowned at this point.
Zelda is what matters, right?
So speculation time.
Yeah.
Is this running Android?
No. I'm going to say no.
Is this the Shield tablet too?
Hey, hot girl, look at my Nintendo Switch.
With
Nintendo's
controllers on the side.
Nintendo's thing is always like their own
Yes.
software.
And I talked to somebody who said, like, there's a part in the NVIDIA press release where they say Nintendo Switch's gaming experience is also supported by fully custom software, including a revamped physics engine, new libraries, game tools, and libraries. NVIDIA additionally created new gaming APIs to harness this performance. The newest API, NVN, was built specifically to bring lightweight, fast gaming to the masses.
Oh, it also works with like a regular PlayStation controller looking thing.
Yeah, they'll have other accessories for it and stuff. And then you can use each of those little halves of it as a little controller as well for like basic gaming and multi-gaming. Like, see what those guys are using it there. From what I'm hearing, NVIDIA very likely built the operating system almost completely on its own.
But what do you think NVIDIA would build it on top of?
Linux.
Their own driver infrastructure?
Yeah, like they don't have to have an operating system, really. Like they don't.
What?
They don't.
just
like,
need to
There
make
has to be an
Well, you gotta-
operating
you gotta
system
have a
running on the
kernel in there.
device.
Well, yeah, but that's Nintendo's side.
Yeah, like
Didn't you literally just say that they built the software for the device?
I think they basically built
An API.
everything from the graphics level up
Yeah.
completely for this. And
Welcome to Graphics OS.
I have heard from a person that is not at NVIDIA that NVIDIA wanted to be in a console so badly that they were willing to do this, like
Oh.
at like I tell you what,
Any
Nintendo,
cost.
if you take our Tegras,
Whatever it
we'll do
takes, man.
all
I
the
just
stuff
wanna
for
be
you
in
to
that.
make it
Well,
work.
think about how many times they've not been in something where you're like surprised that they weren't. Like,
Well,
why aren't they in this thing? And then,
AMD
you know.
has all the consoles,
Yeah.
the actual consoles themselves, and you know, NVIDIA had the lines when those consoles were announced. It's like, oh, we didn't really want to bid on that because that's not a profitable business venture, and that's all crap, right? That's not true. You want to be in there. Now, it'll be curious to see if this is if they're going to make money on this, and you'll know in future future years, and based on what their profits and stuff are in those markets, or is this like hoping to spark interest in Tegra devices for other platforms? I don't understand this.
They're going all the way to multiplayer.
Oh no, they're going all the way to like main events here on this stuff. But yeah,
But that was a multiplayer main event thing. They were all like docked together.
So
or
March
something.
2017. No idea what the graphics performance is going to be. Do I assume that's better performance than the Wii U? Would you
would
you'd have
imagine.
to assume that, right?
It has to be.
It has to be at least that good.
It's like
Or
two
better.
Wii U's duct taped together.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't release a console even if it's a tablet.
They could. Nintendo could.
Nintendo can.
Nintendo
will.
absolutely could.
But they've already talked about games that are going to be cross. The new Zelda will be available on both. For
Yeah,
example.
they like to promise that pre-release.
Yeah, it'll be there. I'm curious. Like, is this a Pascal based architecture? Is this a
It almost
Maxwell
has to be Pascal.
based
right?
architecture?
Yeah, with 2017, yes.
Yeah, I guess. And then what CPU design is it? Is it strictly ARM?
It's ARM, baby.
Yeah, but is it? Are
ARM.
they
It's
using
not
their custom
Denver.
cores? Or
It's
are they
a
using off the
tablet.
shelf?
Come on, it's not Denver. You got that's the 35 to.
The Denver tablet was
51.
awful. Have you seen the
Yeah.
Nexus 9?
I mean, they did make tablets out of it.
Of course,
That's what I'm
baby.
saying.
NVIDIA has made a lot of Tegra stuff.
To be fair, the
and-
Nintendo Wii U, according to my research before I wrote the story, was only 0.35 teraflops of GPU compute.
Well,
So
it is interesting because
320 AMD stream processors.
AMD had that Nintendo contract for a long time.
They did.
The GameCube was
But what would
An
AMD
AMD
offer in that
ATI
form
product.
factor?
nothing. But
Right. That's what I'm sure it came down to is and NVIDIA probably might have still had a better part, but like AMD doesn't have anything in that.
I mean, no one else has anything that would do this,
Yeah.
right, in that form factor.
Yeah.
Like, NVIDIA is the only option there because they have the...
All right, let's get to our hardware picks of the week because we're running really late. We're going to
Yeah.
start with Jeremy because I don't have one yet.
Your
'cause
system
you got-
reboots in 4 minutes.
Oh yeah, God, hurry up, Jeremy. What do you got?
Oh no, he's gonna reboot. Okay. So, Tech Report put this review out to me. It's an analog mechanical keyboard, and I read that and I go, okay, this is gonna be the stupidest thing that I've seen all day. I was wrong. This thing, it's still a prototype, but it's actually pretty neat. So you've got a mechanical switch, but there's a little IR light on the bottom of the cap and a detector on the circuit board. and it will detect how much you're pushing down a key.
All right.
The usage scenario that actually made it for me was they were walking around in DayZ. So usually W would be walk forward. Run forward. You
Proportional
hold the shift
walking.
down, you walk. You hold the control down, you sprint. With this, you push the W a little bit, and you're walking. You push it a little harder, you're running. You bottom it out, and you're sprinting.
I wonder how hard that control is.
Yeah.
It's cherry reds.
It depends
So-
on the pressure that you put on, because the human body can,
There he is
Ooh,
again.
90 pounds.
There are not
But- so
pistons
essentially-
behind these keys, Josh.
No, there are not.
I can't see it working
there are
very well for
dampers.
flight sims, but for Battlefield, where, if you're trying to fly with a joystick, you can use the analog to bank sharply or softly. With a keyboard, you're either or driving straight.
Right.
With this, all of a sudden, the keyboard, you push it
Okay.
down just a little bit and you're turning. And I'm like, I'm not impressed by mechanical keyboards. Yeah, I like the clicky switches, but that's more for
Right.
typing, not for gaming. I don't care about the glowing stuff. This actually might be interesting.
How much is it?
So keep an eye out for it. Well, it's a prototype at this point.
Damn it.
I'm expecting to sell for about $100 because you can't really add much to the price at this point for a mechanical
Oh,
keyboard.
absolutely you can,
Oh, they
sir.
totally go over $100.
yeah.
Well, you can go crazy. I'm hoping this one won't. But if it's $100, $120, I might think about it.
All right.
Because
Individual IR sensors, yeah. For
my
how many
pinky
keys?
is sick
104?
of trying to push the shift key to move forward and run.
All right, we got to move on. I got 3 minutes. Josh.
Me. I think I may have done this before a long time ago, but the price just keeps going down. It's a shell shocker, $170. Ultra widescreen. It's only 25-inch, but I gave this to the wife, and we game on that, and it's fantastic for the price. So if you're looking for that kind of gaming, that kind of
2560 by 1080, 60 hertz.
yeah. I mean, you could put a lot of windows on there, and side by side documents, stuff like that. It's handy. It's not fantastic, but it's pretty dang good, especially considering it's only 170 bucks.
is nice indeed. All right,
Yeah.
Alan.
Oh, where's you?
I just said I'm going to go last.
Oh, okay.
He's skipping. He's delaying.
Yeah. Been toying around with this Factorio. It's like pre-release kind of. You can buy it for $20 on Humble,
Okay.
but it's like real-time strategy, sort of like Age of Empires. If you were big into Age of Empires,
Sure.
way back when. But it's kind of like a hybrid between like Age of Empires and like SimCity and like a few other things. I don't know. It just the scale of it gets pretty insane, and the whole idea is like it's really
Oh
big
my.
on. Oh no!
Wow.
Yeah, it gets worse. It's like really big on like the whole production aspect. So if you want to make a certain thing, you have to realize it goes through that. We have to make 3
What
things
the
before
shit?
that other thing to get there. So it's kind of like factory stuff on steroids, but as a game. And then there's
Interesting.
enemies that don't like your pollution that you're making from your factory, so they come after you. It's like these animals that are like agitated by.
And here I thought this was when you first started that out. I was like, oh, great! Somebody remade Ancient Art of War.
No.
It kind of looked like that, didn't
It's
it?
totally not like that. This doesn't focus so much
Yeah.
on the combat part of that. I mean, there is a combat thing to kind of make it, a little bit more interesting, as if it didn't need any more help than that.
Look at all that pollution.
All that pollution from all those steam engine things is going to piss off all the natives, and then, they start trying to come after you and crap like that.
The Zerglings?
Sure, I guess. And then
But thankfully, you've got a large military-industrial complex to
yeah,
prevent
with
To
trains,
squash the uprising.
with trains that just happen to run over that track right there. Oh, whoops! And so, took them all out. But just the depth of the thing is insane.
How much is it?
$20.
All right. Humble
That's funny. My
store.
convenience store guys just got Age of Empires 2 installed
And,
on the machine he runs at work. So he's now split screen the point of sale and Age of Empires 2. He's
Yep.
a very happy man right now.
And if you get it on Humble, they give you the Steam key as well, so you'll have it on Steam also.
That's a good idea.
So it's a good deal.
Click through our Humble partner link in the show notes.
Yes, we do have a Humble partner link. So
Yep.
in the show notes, they can get that there. All right. Okay, here's my pick.
I can't do the sound.
Harry's? Oh wait, no. Well, yeah, it kind of is Harry's.
So you need this Harry's razor.
It's a furry costume.
So I saw this at a Halloween store last week, 2 weeks ago, when I was out trying to pick out a costume for my daughter, and it was like super expensive out there, and I found the exact same thing on Amazon. And this is what we call the I really don't want to put any effort into Halloween.
Is it just a jacket?
It's just a zip-up hoodie. Like it's got a zipper on it, right? Like, but I also,
awesome.
but to be fair, I also have a Chewbacca hat, like knit hat, that you can pull over your face.
I mean, that looks pretty warm.
Yeah, it is. It's it's a decent. I'm not sure how often I would wear it. I mean, I could also
For
get
Ryan every day.
the suit,
the
right?
onesie.
You know,
Oh, it's a onesie.
but it doesn't have footies, so it kind of, to me, that defeats the purpose.
Can you fit the Chewbacca outfit over your gorilla suit?
No, no.
You should do the gorilla thing wearing the Chewbacca jacket.
The gorilla thing would be way too on point this year. You can't go as a gorilla.
Yeah, no, I'm not going as a gorilla this year.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been a gorilla for the last 8 years.
You can carry around a small child.
Yeah, I
But now
could.
is your time.
And have a 21 by 9 hanging out of your pants.
This, by the way, is the beanie hat I have. It looks like this when it's closed, and it looks like this when you unroll it, so you can see through it.
That's creepy.
That's really creepy.
I've worn it to Bengals games before. It's very helpful for that, like when it's really cold and you want to cover your whole face.
And look like a psychopath.
You look a little bit like a psychopath, but you know, or you could get that. Like, what is more crazy looking?
Yeah. Just
Look
lean
at
into
that kid. Yarr. So that's my cop-out pick for this week, everybody. So that's going to be the show for us. PCPro.com/podcast is URL to find all the information about how to subscribe, where to get files, all the show notes to all the links, the stories we talked about. If you want other information, you know, follow up on any of the reviews or news stories we talked about. We'll be back next Wednesday with another episode. I guess unless it rains.
Shut up.
I don't know. You know, if it's rainy.
Listen,
Maybe if
don't
you were
know.
here for like
It
more than a
rained.
day straight, we would have had a podcast.
I'm on an every other week cadence here.
the local news was cut in for like 3 hours straight, covering like who should hide in their basement or in their bomb shelter.
You're
or
gonna
whatever.
judge the 24-hour news cycle based on what's important.
No,
in
they
this
broke
world.
into like the regular broadcast for like 3 hours.
Like Jeopardy.
Like whatever was on.
Oh man, okay, it's broken into Jeopardy. It was
I
serious.
couldn't watch my
Wheel of
whatever.
Fortune.
Your programs.
my programs. That's the word I was looking for.
All right, everybody. We'll be back next week. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malmontano.
Goodbye.